I bet he could do super duper interesting things with the hair tendrils that he can control. Hello and welcome to day 3 of You Make This House a Home. This is a Yandere horror dating sim in which you wake up in a house with no memory of how you got here, living with an obsessed monster who claims to be the love of your life. And as the days go by, his soft smiling facade is slowly beginning to drop. Will you be able to survive, or will something terrible happen? Let's get started. Also, if you haven't seen days 1 and 2, I have linked that in the description box below. Wednesday, 10:13 a.m. Oh, Jesus. You wake to a start, and you're immediately plunged into a state of panic. Bang. There was a disturbing sound of blunt force hitting the wall every now and then. Yeah, and I really don't like it. But aside from that, you quickly came to the realization that you couldn't move your fingers. Your hands are taped up. Wait, when did this happen? You can't move them anymore. You try to struggle against the tight bindings to no avail. Bang. Bang. You flinch at the sound of harsh banging coming from the hallway. You struggle to sit up, the sticky bits of the messy tape job catching on the fabric as you slid your feet off the side of the bed. I think he's re-nailing the planks on the door. There was a brief pause in the banging as the shuffle of your feet on the floor of the bedroom, before a rush of footsteps approach your door. You instinctively take a step back. You palm helplessly at the round doorknob, unable to use your dexterity to open the door. He slams the door open, bursting in with a hammer in hand and a wild look in his eyes. Good morning, Yinny. You step backwards further, the back of your knees brushing up against the bed once more at the sight of the figure you had familiarized yourself with, looming past your doorframe with a hammer in hand. He glances down at the tool in his hand, his ink-dark fingers wrapped around the handle far too comfortably for your liking. He smiled, slowly tucking the hammer behind his back, the instability in his eyes glinting unnervingly. I was just about finished anyway, honey. He suddenly crowds you on the bed, leaning down with the hammer still behind his back. Is he gonna hammer me? Or something else? Yinny, this is not the time to be spicy. Come on, I'll help you downstairs. He was eager to take one of your bound hands in his, hastily leading you out of the bedroom and downstairs. My God, I will say he looks absolutely terrifying, but he is still so cute. God, and the music makes me so uncomfortable. Cole looked happy to be the one in control of the situation. He was off, way off, so much so it was concerning. He smiled widely as he sat you down in your seat, scurrying to put the hammer down on the kitchen counter and hastily throwing on his apron before taking his place and leaned over the table. He plants his elbows on the table, leaning in very, very close. His breath is uneven, his eyes bright with a kind of frantic relief. There, see? Everything is fine now, just as it was. His voice is soft, but the softness feels stretched thin, like a thread pulled too tight. Why are my fingers taped up? Things have been a bit unsafe around here, you know? Are you upset with me? He stills momentarily. For an instant, he doesn't blink, doesn't breathe, just stares. Upset? He repeats the word like it's foreign. No, sweetheart, I'm not upset. He suddenly gets serious, lowering his voice. If I was upset, you'd know. A chill crawls up your spine. He exhales shakily, rubbing his face with one hand like he was just as exhausted as you are. I'm not upset. I'm just tired, and I don't want to scare you anymore. He reaches out, brushing his thumb over your taped fingers. I mean, this definitely scares me. Waking up with my hands taped? Let's just not do that again. His smile is gentle, his eyes are not. Let's have breakfast, okay? Good for a fresh start. He turns back to the counter, humming under his breath that same melody from the past 2 days. You watch him move around the kitchen. He isn't cooking bacon or eggs like usual. Instead, he reaches for a box of cereal in the cabinets under the silverware. He doesn't want to cook for me anymore. Cereal? Something simple. Something easy on your stomach. He pours the cereal into a bowl, adds milk and stirs it with a spoon, all casual-like. Then he brings the bowl to the table. He sets it down in front of you with a bright, expectant smile. Cole, I can't eat this. My hands. He cuts you off with a soft laugh. I know. That's why I made something I can feed you. You tense up. He'd even taken the freedom to feed yourself from you. You'd completely shattered his trust. Now everything was under his control again. He scoops up a spoonful of cereal, holding it up with a tenderness that feels horribly out of place as he held the spoon to your mouth. What did I even do? Is this because I went into the, boarded up room? Open up, sweetheart. Why cereal? You never make cereal. His eyes narrowed a bit. Question time is over, honey. He nudges the spoon towards your mouth again. Eat. You hesitate, then open your mouth. He beams. Good. Good job. He feeds you slowly, spoonful by spoonful, watching your face with an intensity that makes your skin prickle. His eyes follow every swallow, tracing the curve of your throat as he continued to smile approvingly. See, this is nice. Just us. No running around, no secrets. Colt, shh. Eat first, talk after. He scoops another spoonful, bringing it to your lips. You can't tell if he's trying to comfort you or keep you quiet. He scoops another spoonful, but his hand trembles just barely and you almost miss it. Keep eating. You open your mouth, accepting the next bite. I know this is scary. You're being very brave. He sets a bowl aside once the cereal he had poured was gone, brushing your hair with gentle fingers. You know I love you, right? I will always take care of you. Cole cleared the table with a giddy feeling about him. He set the bowl and spoon in the sink. Clearly he was delighted even as he spoke. Also, please don't try to undo the tape. Cole chirped, his voice suddenly airy. His eyes flicked down to your tape fingers, the adhesive stark and ugly against your skin. Oh god, that'd be so uncomfortable on your hands too. If I find out you've been picking at that tape, or trying to wiggle your way out of my care, I'll have to find something else a bit more permanent than tape to keep those hands still. He beamed, the warning delivered with the same cadence one might use to tell a child not to touch a hot stove. He's not nice to me anymore. It was the contrast that made the hair on your arm stand up. The genuine radiating affection in his expression paired with the implied threat of further restraint. He stepped back, humming that same haunting melody again, his apron now folded neatly and tucked away. Cole's grip on your arm was firm, a constant reminder that your orbit now centered entirely around him. Let's go settle in the living room, honey. Cole murmured, his voice regaining a sing-song quality that always felt like it was masking a jagged edge. He steered you into the living room with a lightness in his step, his hands a constant guiding weight on your elbow. He settled you onto the plush fabric of the sofa, the cushions sighing beneath your weight. For a moment he just stood there, gazing down at you with an expression of such raw and starving adoration that it felt more oppressive than the tape on your fingers. It's far too quiet in here, don't you think? He asked, tilting his head. A home needs a heartbeat and this room is far too breathless. Oh, that's a pretty line. He leaned in, pressing a quick kiss to your cheek that left a lingering sensation of coldness. Stay right here. You can look around at things here, but please don't go anywhere. I'm going to find my record player. I believe I left it in the hall downstairs during our last spring cleaning. Some music will settle your nerves and perhaps mine as well. With a final lingering pat on your shoulder, he retreated, his footsteps receding behind the stairs. There was the sound of a door opening and closing and Cole's footsteps descending. He didn't know there was a basement. Without his constant presence, the living room felt less like a sanctuary and more like a well-decorated waiting room for something inevitable. You shifted your gaze, scanning the room from the safety of the sofa. The coffee table sat within arm's reach, bearing a small precarious stack of polaroids. They were haphazardly piled, the white borders yellowing at the edges, capturing frozen slivers of a life you couldn't recall and weren't around for. Piled. The white borders yellowing at the edges, capturing frozen slivers of a life you couldn't recall and you weren't around for. A few feet to your right, two frames rested there, though they offered no comfort. One lay down, as if the memory within had been deemed too painful to behold. Beside it sat a neat family photo. It seemed normal, save for the faces of the parents that had been meticulously torn away. Jagged white paper remained where their features should have been. What were you most curious about? Ooh, okay, picture frames? Or Polaroids? I kinda wanna have a look at this one that's like lying down. Interesting. I'm just really scared that I'm gonna get jump scared. You never know what is gonna happen in this game. It freaks me out. You glance at the family photo where two people had their faces torn off as well. The photo in your hands clearly was much more aged. Maybe it was his parents' wedding photo. But why did he have it? The rhythmic thumping of footsteps echoed from the depths of the house, growing louder and louder, and more certain as Cole ascended the stairs back towards the living room. Well, we'll look at the rest later. He cradled a modest vintage record player against his chest like a prized infant, a few vinyl sleeves tucked carefully under his arm. There was a slight pleased flush to his pale cheeks and he walked with a light rhythmic bounce in his step that made him look almost adorably domestic. A man returning from a successful errand in his own home. Found it, he chirped, his voice airy and bright. He moved his space among the haunting Polaroids to set down the machine. He handled the equipment with a level of tenderness that bordered on reverence, his long, rubbery fingers delicately sliding a record from its sleeve. Rubbery? Oh god. He didn't look at you immediately, too absorbed in the ritual of the needle meeting the groove, his expression one of serene, uncomplicated contentment. As the first notes of a slow, melancholic piano piece drifted into the room, Cole finally looked up. The music seemed to soften his posture. The silence of the house was gone, replaced by a soft melody that you quickly recognized to be the song he often hummed under his breath, though the music felt less like a comfort and more like a curtain being drawn over the exits. Better, isn't it? His voice barely whispers over the piano. The atmosphere is everything, Yinny. It transforms a house into a sanctuary. He stepped closer, the distance between you closing slowly. He didn't touch you this time, but the way he lingered just outside your personal space felt like a claim. You look so thoughtful. What's on your mind, my love? I hope it's alright that I looked at your framed photos. Which one? His eyes trailed to the fireplace mantle, noticing the photo that was originally face down and that was propped up again, and his smile slowly faded. The older looking one. I see. He hesitated before standing to lower the picture frame once more. Mother and father. He murmured softly. It was from their wedding day. My grandmother took the photo and framed it for them. Why was it lowered? He looked away briefly, something unreadable yet pained flashing in the void in his eyes. It kind of hurts to look at. He murmured almost under his breath. My entire childhood, this photo was everything I imagined love to be. He looked sadly nostalgic, his fingers tracing the edge of the lowered frame. Sometimes I dream about what our wedding would look like. He turns back to you, smiling, and every single time I imagine it just like this picture. It was a mistake for me to have it. Tell me more. He smiled sheepishly over his shoulder. It's nothing special, really. I'm sure I'd bore you. I still want to know. To be very honest, I took it from the house when I... He trailed off briefly. When I left. Why steal if it belonged to your parents? Cole sighed, pausing for a moment as if gathering thoughts. We, never had a strong relationship with each other. That's including my parents' marriage. When I was younger, I would beg my mother to tell me the story of her and my father's wedding all the time. I loved love. It was a beautiful thing. He turned, slowly returning to your space, but it was also delicate. Easily shattered. That's why my mother's happiness didn't last for too long. Cole suddenly had a faraway look in his eyes. I guess that's kind of the reason why I hold on to the love I have so desperately. His attention was suddenly redirected to you. I am doing this the only way I know how. After all, my life was filled with people leaving me. Cole's gaze was heavy once again. But you won't leave, will you? The soft music of the record was like an audible representation of Cole's emotions. Of course not. Cole's eyes shimmered softly with something hopelessly soft. Of course. He shakily grasped your sleeve, slowly undoing the tape and bringing your hand to his face. Yay, one hand freed! He gently nuzzled into your palm. You are captivated. We'll do all the other ones afterwards. Mildly spicy scene. Oh, Cole practically melted to the touch, inhaling the scent of your skin deeply, reverently, worshipfully. Of course, he whispered breathlessly again. My perfect, wonderful Yinny. He pressed a soft, tentative kiss to the tip of your ring finger. His eyes met yours, as if searching for a sign of any resistance, even as he gently took the tip of your finger between his lips. When no rejection came, it was incredibly warm everywhere. His hands, his skin, even his mouth. You could feel his teeth gently press into the base of your finger where a ring would sit. Oh! His hand slowly trailed down the back of yours, his other keeping your wrist steady. His eyes are foggy now, as if there was a wall of restraint crumbling before you. Cole had fully withdrawn now, his front teeth scraped along the top of your ring finger before coming to a rest on the base of your nail bed. You tried to pull away, but his grip was firmer than you expected. Oh no. Cole? You murmured softly, your other still taped hand on his shoulder now, trying to ease him off, but it was no use. His eyes looked wild. It was a terrifying switch of demeanor. His teeth began to press down on your nail. Oh no. Oh no. No. Cole! You tried again, trying to tug yourself away. Cole, please, that's enough. Cole completely tore your nail off your nail bed. His face was shadowed by his hair as he pressed forward, using his height to shove you down. Licking his lips of your blood, he went on to rip the nails off. Oh my god, all of them? Sometime between him mangling your fingertips and your screams of agony, you lose consciousness, going numb. You've never been so glad to stop feeling in your entire life. What the hell, Cole? All this because I went into the basement? Wednesday. Time unknown. You could feel a slight pressure on your hands. A light rhythmic tightening around the tips of your fingers. You try to flex your hands, but the movement felt distant, as if your nerves were muffled by a thick layer of wool. As your eyes blinked open, the ceiling of your bedroom drifted into focus. The familiar view from your bed offering a deceptive sense of security. Cole was hovering over you. He was leaning in close, his movements slow and deliberate as he wound a fresh strip of white linen around your fingertips. Every so often, His gaze would flicker up to yours, his eyes wide and brimming with a desperate, watery kind of sorrow. Explain yourself now! He looked less like a man and more like a child who had broken a precious toy and was terrified it couldn't be glued back together. As you shifted, a phantom sensation sparked in your fingertips, not a sharp pain but a dull pulsing void. You looked down at your hands. They were cocooned in neat bandages, but the memory of the morning began to bleed back through the fog. You remembered the simple conversations, the weight of his presence and the sudden sharp intensity of his focus shifting to your hands. There had been a hunger in his eyes then, a strange starving need. He turned them away like an animal. Slow consumption of keratin and skin that was less about getting fed and more about merging together, swallowing the pieces of you as if incorporating your very essence into his own body. You're awake, Cole whispered, his voice cracking. He didn't pull his hand away, instead he gently pressed a kiss to the back of your bandaged wrist. Oh, my sweet precious love, please forgive me. Cole's voice was a jagged shard of glass barely holding together. He didn't look at you with the wildness from before. Instead, he looked as though he were the one pinned down, trembling under the weight of your silence. He shifted closer, his eyes searching yours for a flicker of the warmth that had been there before the hunger took him. You tried to pull your hand away, but the moment was sluggish, numbness acting like a heavy cast. The memory of the sudden sharp snap of your nails being peeled away, and the way he had looked at you as he swallowed the pieces surged back. A wave of nausea rolled through your stomach and you instinctively recoiled, pressing your back against the headboard. Don't touch me, Cole. Your voice sounded foreign and dry. I'm very angry. You started at first trying to create distance, but you continued on. I'm tired, so damn tired, of everything. The memories, the confusion, the lying. Is this hell? Who in the world was I before in life to deserve all of this? The words seemed to hit him like a physical blow. Cole's shoulders hunching forward, his expression twisting into a mask of absolute devastation. He didn't get any closer, but he froze, his hands hovering in the air between you and the palms opening and trembling. I know it's hard for you. It's hard for me too. I know it's unfair. You ate my nails! He looked desperate, his pupils pinpricks staring at you with a longing for understanding and connection. Is he crying blood? There was a redness clustering at the bottom of his eye. Was that blood? Was he crying blood? I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't know why it happened to me. I couldn't control it. I promise I couldn't. Please, forgive me. It keeps tugging on your sleeve as if willing your forgiveness into truth. My heart, my love, my life, please forgive me. I'm sorry. It won't happen again, I promise. Just stop looking at me like that. Oh God. Look at him with disgust. Oh God. You look at him not with the softness of a partner, but with the clinical detachment of someone observing a parasite. The sight of him trembling and clinging to your sleeve with those long fingers no longer evoked a sense of tragedy. It felt like a performance, a calculated display of fragility designed to make you feel like a monster for wanting distance. You looked at the bandages on your fingers, the phantom sting still humming in your nerves, and felt a cold, hard knot of revulsion settle in your gut. He wasn't a broken man. He was a monster who had mistaken his hunger for passion. Stop it, you said, your voice cutting through his whimpering like a blade. Just stop. You pulled your arm back with a slow motion, the linen bandages scraping against the fabric of your sleeve. Cole recoiled as if you had struck him. He looked utterly shattered. Yet all you could think about was the memory of him swallowing pieces of you. The tenderness of his kiss on your wrist now felt like a brand, claim of ownership that made your skin crawl. How can you even say that you didn't mean to? You asked, the disgust finally finding a voice. You didn't just lose control, Cole. You looked to be someone who can't even remember their own life. And you decided that the best way to show love was to hurt me. The silence that followed was a heavy smelling of sterile linen and the faint metallic tang of old blood. Cole didn't snap back with a defense or a sudden urge of anger. Instead, he seemed to shrink as if the weight of your words had physically crushed his ribs. He looked up at you through the fringe of his hair, his expression one of raw, pathetic longing. He was waiting for the moment where you would soften, where the cycle would reset and you would tell him it was okay. But the warmth didn't come. You watched him. Really watched him and noticed the way that his fingers still twitched with a residual hunger in the movement. It was the look of a man who had tasted something he loved and was now mourning the loss of the flavor rather than the trauma he had inflicted. Oh God! The realization settled in your chest like a stone. His apologies weren't for your pain. They were for his own guilt. He wasn't mourning the act. He was mourning the fact that he had ruined the perfection of it. Slowly, a smile crawled back onto his face. Oh, great. So you still see me after all? Even after everything? You always find a way to see right through me. You felt a scoff bubble up in your throat. Though it never reached your lips, the irony was suffocating. His days actively scoping your reality until you were nothing more than a mirror, reflecting whatever version of love he wanted to see. Yet he was the one scared. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a collection. I always loved that about you. Even when no one else cared enough to understand me, you saw me, all of me. Slowly you shifted your weight, feeling the rough texture of the bedsheets against your skin. You looked past him and then back to the bandaged wreckage of your fingertips. The numbness was starting to fade, replaced by a rhythmic pulsing heat that reminded you that you were still made of flesh and bone, things that could be broken, consumed, and discarded. You needed to get out of this house. After a few moments of silence, Cole finally retreated without a word, gently shutting the bedroom door behind him with an empty look in his eyes. For several minutes you didn't move. You stayed pressed against the headboard, staring at the door, listening to the muffled sounds of the house settling around you. The pulsing heat in your fingertips intensified, the numbness receding to reveal a sharp stinging reality. You looked down at the white linen bandages, now feeling less like a medical care and more like a set of shackles. The room felt different now. The soft lighting and the curated comfort of the bed felt like a stage set, a fragile facade designed to distract you from the fact that you were a prisoner in a house built of secrets and dishonesty. You knew Cole was still out there, likely hovering just beyond the door or pacing the hallway, his grief and obsession swirling like a current beneath the floorboards. He wanted you to be a version of yourself that he could understand, a version that forgave him because you had no other choice. You laid back down, letting the ache of the week ease you back to sleep. Wednesday, time unknown. The silence of the house usually felt like a blanket, but tonight it felt like a veil. You woke up to a rhythmic gritting scraping that echoed up through the floorboards. You lay still for a long time, staring at the ceiling, listening to the cadence of the noise. Scrape, swell, crush. It wasn't until you heard a soft knocking at the front door did you finally snap to alertness. A cold curiosity, sharper than your fear, nudged you out of bed. You crept out of your bedroom door, your feet finding the cold spots on the hardwood to avoid the creaks. From the top of the stairs, you saw his tendrils moving to open the door. Oh God! You slowly peered down the stairs, careful not to be seen. Cole was sitting at the table, though the chair he usually sat at was repositioned. He was using a mortar and pestle, the heavy stone bowl grinding something white and brittle into a fine chalky powder. You watched the way his shoulders shifted, the tension in his frame suggesting a level of concentration that bordered on desperation. When the door unlocked, another person opened the front door from the other side. Where were you? You're late. Your eyes widened at the sight of a familiarly unfamiliar man entering the house. A tall, dark-skinned man with long blonde wicks, holding a paper bag of what looked to be groceries. I'm sorry. His voice was low, lower than Cole's, but with a consistent, exhausted tone. Got held up at work. He set the bag down on the table next to Cole, beginning to quietly unload the items. This week has been so difficult, Cole murmured, going back to quietly crushing the pills. He's upset with me. I keep messing up. The man moves around the kitchen with as much precision as Cole does, tucking a loaf of bread in the cabinet, placing a fresh carton of eggs in the refrigerator. Cole continues to catch up in detail of the events of the past few days, expressing in his feelings and thoughts on things he had kept secret in front of you. What really caught your eyes was the newly filled bottle of pills he slowly pulled out at the end. The same ones that Cole was crushing. What did those pills do? Was Cole feeding you them? I just think everything is going to end really soon, Cole murmured, indicating the last of his thoughts. Doesn't this feel like rising action? Until the big thing happens that decides how the rest of our lives play out. The other man just nods his head. It was clear he wasn't a very talkative guy. What you hadn't seen coming was a small white handkerchief he pulled out of his pocket, along with a small bottle of something clear. He poured some out onto the cloth, slowly walking behind Cole's line of sight as he continued to murmur quietly to himself. I'm sure you're right. He hummed before pressing the cloth to Cole's mouth and nose. He squeaked with surprise, struggling for just a moment before immediately slumping forward. Oh? His floating strands of hair slowly began to droop and fall, though some stayed connected to the ceiling. Phew. The other man sighed quietly, tossing out the cloth from the sink and looking down at his passed-out friend. What really shocked you was that he began speaking again. I didn't mean for you to see that. I was planning on waking up myself, and I guess this is fine, too. He turned around to look directly at where you were sitting on the stairs. Come on, let's talk. Your heart hammered against your ribs. For a long moment, you didn't move, your grip tightening on the banister as you stared at the man who had just completely knocked out the guy keeping you in his house. The shock of seeing Cole, usually so poised, slumped over the table like a broken doll was jarring. But it was the man's gaze that anchored you. His eyes weren't harsh like Cole's, but tired, weighted with a weariness that felt relatable. Slowly, you descended the stairs, As you entered the kitchen, the sharp chemical scent of the chloroform still lingered in the air. You stopped a few feet away from him, your eyes darting from the unconscious form of Cole to the man who had just played the role of the infiltrator. "I'm Zeke." "Zeke is so pretty," he said, his voice a calm rumble that didn't match his actions. He didn't move towards you, and he didn't look like he really wanted to. "Cole's old friend." He gestured vaguely towards the passed-out figure of Cole. "Sorry about the dramatics. He doesn't like hearing things he doesn't want to, and he's real stubborn." You looked at the knocked-over mortar and pestle, the white powder still clinging to the stone, and then back to the pill bottles. The realization that your daily recovery was probably a curated chemical haze hit you like an epiphany. You turned back to Zeke, who was already nodding slowly like he knew you had put the pieces together. "I'm not actually sick, am I?" He slowly shook his head. "No. He's feeding me pills to have me forget things, isn't he?" He slowly nods again, his lips pressed into a tight line. He glanced at Cole, his expression softening into something like pity as he rubbed at the back of his neck. "Oh, he's gorgeous." "He thinks he's saving you, in his own twisted way, but the truth is, he's just terrified of you running away from him when you remember everything he's done. Which you absolutely should. He's as irredeemable gets. But that's why I'm here, Yinny." You blinked. "I'm getting you out of here. We can't do it now. There's still some things I have to do." You whip around at Cole, still very much unconscious at his kitchen table, and then back at Zeke with a dumbfounded look. "Why not now?" "It's a long story." Zeke sighed, walking towards the table once more. "But I suppose we do have all night." He stared at Cole's body with an unsure expression. He slowly dug into his hand into Cole's pocket, pulling out a key. He hesitated for a moment before leaning down to hoist up his friend under his arm like an animal. "Oh." He looked stupid. They both did. He stared blankly at you with no words. You didn't know what exactly it was that he was waiting for. You squint your eyes a little, making a face. He shifts Cole around, grunting softly as he slings him over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes instead. "Wow." He stares at you again, silently asking if this was better. You make an incredulous expression, shrugging your shoulders. He shrugged his own, turning towards the stairs with Cole slung heavily across his arm. Zeke navigated the stairs with a rhythmic, heavy thud after flicking on the lights. Cole's limp body bouncing slightly against his shoulder with every step. It was a surreal image. The domestic terror of the house reduced to a piece of luggage being hauled upstairs. You followed close behind, your curiosity overriding the lingering fear. Your footsteps light and hurried as you tried to keep pace with the taller man. As Zeke fumbled with the key in the padlock, with one hand, you tried to slip past Zeke to see inside his room, but a surprisingly firm arm suddenly barred your path. It wasn't a shove, just a firm, steady boundary that halted your momentum. "Wait here, please." Zeke's voice was barely a vibration. You watched from the hallway, listening to the muffled sounds of Cole being dropped onto a mattress. A moment later, the door clicked shut and Zeke reappeared, leaning his back against the wall, crossing his arms over his chest. "Oh my god, why is he so pretty?" The dim hallway light cast deep shadows across his face, making him look like someone who had spent far too many nights dealing with things that shouldn't exist. "Alright," Zeke said, his gaze scanning your face. "You have 1,000 questions, I can see them spinning in your head. Start with the big one." "Where is Phoebe?" Cole mentioned Phoebe. You asked, your voice trembling. "The photo. Cole said we were all friends once. Where is she? If you're here to get me out, is she already gone?" Zeke's gaze dropped to the floor. The exhaustion in his eyes looked like grief. He didn't answer immediately, the silence stretching until the distant hum of the refrigerator downstairs sounded like a scream. "Phoebe was the first to realize that Cole's devotion was actually a hunger. She's dead." I hope Cole didn't eat her," was all he said. "Why are you in my house?" Zeke let out a dry, huffing sound. That might have been a laugh if he weren't so devoid of humor. "Technically, this isn't your house," he corrected softly. "It's just the place where Cole decided you'd be safest. Which, as you probably noticed by the medication and the locked doors, is his way of saying where I can keep you under my thumb." "You said you were friends. If you're friends, why are you knocking him out and sneaking around?" Zeke's gaze drifted towards the closed bedroom door. "We were a long time ago, before Cole decided that love meant this. I don't see people as people anymore. He didn't just want your affection, Yinny, he wanted your autonomy. He wanted to be the only thing you remember, the only person you need." "Well, that's messed up." "And those pills don't just cause memory loss, they prune the parts of your mind that make you want to leave." The revelation made your heart drop to your feet. Every kind gesture Cole has made over the last few days, the careful meals, the soft words, the obsessive attention, suddenly felt like an elaborate performance. You looked at Zeke, really looking at him, noticing the way that he didn't seem surprised by any of this. "What? So is this coming from some sort of savior complex?" "Savior complex? You must be joking. It's a place of concern, bird." "Who are you really?" Zeke shifted his weight, his shoulder leaning harder into the wall as if the physical pressure helped him hold back the words. "A coward." That is so powerful, though. I'm someone who waited too late to finally do something. He looked at you with a strange sort of warmth. I'm gonna be honest. I know you more than Cole thinks you do. I've been weaning you off the medication by emptying half the bottles and filling them back up with duds. That's why we're starting to remember things. The air in the hallway seemed to thin. Every time you had felt a flicker of clarity. Every time the fog had lifted just enough to make you question the locks on the doors, that had to be him. I know you're probably really confused and I'm sorry. I'm doing this for you and for Cole. This obsession he has with you is ruining you both. Eventually you'd overdose on the pills. He'd die of starvation. He can't sustain himself on the energy of a dying mind for long. That's interesting. So he is living off of energy that you were giving off. I care about you two too much to let that happen, okay? You nodded after a moment, slowly digesting the words. Any day now, Cole won't be able to keep up that form for much longer. It's been slipping out of his control more and more every day, and if he doesn't eat, Zeke trailed off, his voice dropping to a whisper. Bottom line is, I don't want that to happen. I don't know how you feel about any of this, but I'm being selfish here. I can't help myself. You just need to trust me. What do the pills do? Zeke lets out a long, slow breath. They're a sort of eraser. They target the short-term memories and the emotional triggers that keep you grounded in who you are. That is terrifying. Why would he do that? Why would he want me to forget everything? Zeke's expression remained the same. Because Cole is a rotting monster. Yikes. Oh, I wasn't being mean. He's literally a monster and he's literally rotting. Oh, he paused, then did something unexpected. He wiggled his hair. They moved independently of each other, writhing like snakes only for an instant before it stopped. That's so cool. Creatures like him, creatures like me. We can't be exposed to humans for too long in that state without things starting to degrade. You start to go insane. Start to lose your grip on reality, your identity and your will, as you were doing. The only way he thought he could prevent the crazy was to make you forget. If you didn't remember the things that were triggering the breakdown, he thought you could stay there with him. He looked at you, his eyes weighted with a profound sadness. He did want to help you, Yandere. He just went crazy along the way. Zeke gently patted your head. I wonder if our breakdown was basically triggered by us being too close to him, and he's the reason as to why we're sick. If he is a creature that feeds off the energy of someone, and specifically tethers to a mind, because that would make a lot more sense. It was one of the suspicions we had when we played days 1 to 2. It was a sort of awkward gesture, but it felt nice. It wasn't a touch that demanded anything from you. You should head to sleep. I'll be gone when you wake up, but I won't be far. He glanced at the storage room. It'd be better if you had your phone though. I guess I'll have to deal with that too. He murmured soft to himself. Guess I'm busy tonight. He watched you as you returned to your room before heading downstairs to discard the hills. The hallway light was turned off and the house was quiet once again. End of demo for now. Thank you for playing. Maybe try again for a new route. We will absolutely do that. You might find something new. Oh, that's so interesting. That's so exciting. Alright, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go back and pick the other options that we didn't get to for the photo and stack of polaroids, and we'll progress onto there and get those scenes. And then we're gonna go back and try things a little bit differently, act like we hate him, and see if anything changes in day 3 as well. We are back to here. This time, let's look at the stack of polaroids. Once you examine the photos, click anywhere to exit. Each photo is years apart, but they all seem to be from the same camera. What the hell? Oh, that's kind of cute though. Oh dear. There's Phoebe. The rhythmic thumping of footsteps echo from the depths of the house, growing louder and more certain as Cole ascended the stairs back towards the living room. Found it, he chirped, his voice airy and bright. He moved a space among the haunting polaroids to set down the machine. Can you tell me about those photos? He slowly stepped closer, the distance between you closing slowly. He didn't touch you this time, but the way he lingered just outside your personal space felt like a claim. You look so thoughtful. What's on your mind, my love? Can you tell me about those photos? I can try. He looks at the scattered polaroids again, eyes tracing each one like they're pieces of a puzzle only he understands. They're snapshots of different times of my life. He tapped them with his knuckle. Some of these are taken before I met you. Way before. He smiles faintly as he glances at the photo of him, Zeke, and Phoebe. All of these are very special to me. I suppose I want to look at them again. How old are they? Pretty old. He says it with a strange softness. Some are from when I was barely 6 years old. Some are from my high school years. He picks up one of the older ones, the one where he looks innocent and curious with makeup smudged all over his face. This one was taken before my parents really started to drift away from me. I just found one of my father's old cameras and I was really excited. I was always different, even as a little kid. He doesn't say what changed, just that things did. Cole lets out a slow breath, grounding himself. Thank you for spending time with me. Oh, hello. Look at him. Whoa. I bet he could do super duper interesting things with the hair tendrils that he can control. Anyway, you spent a few more moments together, quietly existing with each other as Cole switched out the record a few more times. He exchanged memories with time, speaking fondly of experiences you had no memory of. Eventually, he got up to prepare lunch. Like any other day. Oh, so he doesn't do the fingernail thing this time. You just get to go to lunch. You followed after your boyfriend, hovering around the kitchen. You didn't want to bother him, but there wasn't much else to do. Cole? Yes, my love? Cole chapped, reaching for his apron but pausing halfway to respond. Would you mind making me something other than a sandwich? He leaned over the table towards where you stood. You don't like it? I don't know, I could use something different every now and then. He shrugged. Cole's face was hard to read for a moment before he smiles widely. I'd love to. Well, at least he didn't eat our fingernails. Cole's voice was steady over the rhythmic tapping of a knife hitting a cutting board. A lot of people had told me the silence of the house was eerie, since it was usually so empty, but I find it clarifying. The scent of toasted sourdough and melted cheese began to drift through the air. It was a domestic smell, something that belonged in a cozy cottage, not in a place where the doors are padlocked and windows are boarded up. You watched him through the doorway, his movements fluid and precise, the pink apron he wore contrasting sharply with the intensity of his focused gaze. Lunch is almost ready, he added, his tone shifting into that warm, honeyed cadence that always made you forget. For a split second, that you were a prisoner of his affection. He plated the grilled cheese with precision, cutting the sandwich into 2 perfect triangles. He set a bowl of tomato soup beside it. As he sat down at the small wooden table, the silence he praised felt heavier than usual. He slid the plate towards you, the golden brown crust of the sandwich glistening under the kitchen light. Pretty plating, eh? You poked at the sandwich, the cheese stretching in a satisfying, gooey string. I was just thinking that you're very precise. Even with the food, everything is always so symmetrical. Cole let out a soft humming laugh, leaning his chin on his hand as he watched you take your first bite. Precision is a form of love, don't you think? To care for the smallest details is to care for the whole. Plus, I used to be a chef. And conversation drifted, circling around the mundane. Cole was in a particularly good mood, his topics light and his voice airy. What kind of cheese is this? Tad asked between bites. It was decadent salty, but not too salty. It's cheddar and Gruyere. Cole responded easily. The last in my fridge, actually. I don't typically buy cheese that much anymore. Gruyere. Gruyere. That's what I said. He leaned into the playful banter that almost masked all the things tucked away. I love Gruyere. It tastes so good, but man, sometimes it smells like feet. It was easy to lose yourself in the warmth of the room. The feeling of being cherished by someone who noticed every minor detail about you. However, as the meal went down, the air shifted. Cole didn't move to clear the plates. Instead, he stayed leaned in, his eyes scanning your face with an intensity that felt less like affection and more like an audit. He was searching for something. A flicker of recognition. A sign of a returning memory, or perhaps just a sign that you were still under his spell. He smiled warmly as he cleared the table. If you want some time to yourself, now's the time, my love. He nodded, your gaze trailing to the corner Cole had disappeared past to get his record player. You were curious about that basement. Cole called out over his shoulder before you could go. Or would you like something different for dinner as well? Yeah, that sounds really nice. You hummed an acknowledgement, finalizing your conversation. You glanced back at Cole, who was humming softly to himself as he washed the plate and bowl. You drifted further into the hallway, past the living room and the stairs back up, your fingers trailing along the bland wallpaper. That was when you saw it, a narrow door tucked behind a shadowed corner. Unlike the other doors, it wasn't boarded or even locked up. It was simply closed with a handle that felt ice cold against your palm. Ooh, can we go in? You pressed your ear to the wood. There was no sound, but there was a draft. A thin, sharp current of air that smelled of damp concrete and something rottenly metallic, like old rusting pennies. It was the only place in the house that didn't smell of Cole's pervasive warmth. The door pulled open easily and without noise. Oh god, now I'm freaking out. You flicked on the light switch next to the door, revealing a steep set of wooden stairs that plunged downwards into a yawning void of darkness, your heart drumming a frantic rhythm against your ribs. After another moment of doubt, you flicked the lights off and slowly closed the door. Hell no. You were curious, but not that curious. As you turn around to head back to the living room, you jump a little out of your skin at the sight of Cole leering down the hallway, with his record player tucked neatly under his arm. Oh god. Well, I will explore the basement in another route. His expression is scared, but also relieved. A moment of silence passed between you two. There's nothing down there, Cole said monotonously. I believe you, Cole. Just drunk for that cluttered space up here that I didn't have room for. I understand, Cole. Knowing him, he was probably lying. At the same time, you weren't too sure if you wanted to find out his truth. You don't have to be so careful around me, honey. Cole murmured, his voice regaining terms of tenderness as he stepped closer. You can be curious. You can even be suspicious. I've always loved that spark in you, the way you refuse to just accept the world as it's handed to you. He reached out to brush the strands of hair away from your forehead. For a moment, the tension from the basement door dissipated, replaced by that suffocatingly sweet domesticity. He shrugged towards the living room, signaling that that's where you should be. Away from here, he stepped past you, towards the basement, opening the door and hence shutting it behind him, a telltale click informing you that he locked it. The afternoon stretched into a slow, syrupy blur. Cole spent the hours in a state of high-functioning devotion. He didn't hover, but he was always there, a shadow in the periphery. A soft footfall in the hallway. A sudden warm hand on your shoulder as you read. Every time you caught his eye, he beamed with a quiet proprietary pride, as if your mere presence in the room was a trophy he had won and kept dustless. However, as the light began to fail, shifting from a pale gold to a bruised purple outside the cracks of the shutters, the atmosphere shifted. Cole retreated to the kitchen, the rhythmic thumping of his prep work echoing throughout the house. The evening passed quickly, boringly so, and before you knew it, you were in bed. Wednesday, time unknown. The silence of the house usually felt like a blanket, but tonight, it felt like a veil. Okay, so I think this is Zeke's night, because if this is, I don't think we'll go through the scene again because we've already seen it. So I might go back, check out the other photo and see if that lets us into the basement. But yeah, I'm just doing a very quick little skip. And yeah, that was just the same ending that we got last time. So let's go back to here. We'll look at this photo this time. So this is our third playthrough on the route where we're nice to him. Is that Cole as a kid and his mom? It's a family photo. You see three figures, a frail thin woman and a tall man and what appears to be Cole as a child. You're so adorable. He's clearly displeased. Whether with his family or the situation, you weren't sure. You cannot but wonder why he had torn their faces off. Was their relationship truly that bad? Well, he is back. I hope it's alright that I looked at your framed photos. Oh, which one? His eyes trailed to the fireplace mantel. Your little family photo. Oh, yeah. I was a cute kid, right? Cole blinked expectantly, his large eyes full of expectation. He seemed to thrive on praise and compliments, however rarely given. Yes, you had a cute baby face for sure. Cole giggled softly, his blush deepening. That's nice of you to say. You look so angry. Well, I didn't exactly want to be there. He glanced over at the picture. But in the end, they were still my parents and I didn't have a say on what happened. Did you hate your parents that much? Yes. His eyes widening is so scary when you ask him. He said that a little too quickly. Well, that's a touch harsh. He squinted his eyes thoughtfully. It's more like I felt for them and how much they felt for me, which wasn't a lot. Tell me more. You really want to know? He tilts his head, studying your face as if searching for something. It's nothing interesting. He looks back towards the photo. His thin, neglected mother and his tall, angry father. Faces he doesn't care to even keep around his house. They weren't bad people. They just didn't know what to do with me. His voice softens, almost nostalgic but not fond. I'm wondering if Cole's parents were also a monster like he was? Or was he born human and then turned into a monster? I wasn't an easy kid. Them I didn't act like them. They didn't try to understand what was wrong with me. He sighed as if even thinking about his childhood was putting a damper on his mood. There really wasn't much to do with me, I'll give them that. But it's that lack of effort that ultimately drove me away. He exhaled slowly, shoulders sinking. The record continued to play its soft melody, filling the empty gaps of their space with something warm. I think they were afraid of me, and I think I was afraid of them. He turns back to you. Expression unreadable. Was he expecting you to speak now? Did you ever find out what was wrong? A beat. Mostly. Cole looks back at the photo one last time before turning fully towards you. I don't want to talk about them anymore. I'd rather talk about us. He studies your face for a long, quiet moment. You look tired. He says it gently. Just loud enough to be in your space, but not too much to be anything else but caring. He shifts closer on the couch, knees brushing yours. I hate seeing you like this. I'm fine. He gives you a look that says he doesn't believe a word of it. You always say that, but he refrains, fingers twitching at their sides. And you'll always believe me. I will. Cole lets out a slow breath, grounding himself. Thank you for spending time with me. You spend a few more moments together, quietly existing with each other as Cole switched out the record a few more times. They exchanged memories, for time, speaking fondly of experience he had no memory of. Eventually he got up to prepare lunch. Like any other day. Alright, I skipped forward from there because we still weren't able to go into the basement and it just takes us back to Zeke's scene. So we're still gonna have to do a little bit more hunting. Alright, this is the route where we stabbed Cole and we also hate him. So this should allow us to enter the basement. Why are my fingers taped up? Why do I have a stab wound in my throat? Sorry, he asked with the same brittle calm. Clearly he's fine, if not a bit bitter. Or something inside you hopes he's not upset at you. You're not sure if Cole angry was something you wanted to experience just yet. I get it, you know? He started again suddenly. You're scared? I'm scary. It's really only natural that you react this way. He sighed, rubbing at the near invisible stitches in his neck. You swallow hard, unsure whether to apologize or stay silent. Cole, You don't have to explain. I know why you did it. He says it so casually it makes your stomach twist. You were scared. You thought I was gonna hurt you, or... He trails off, jaw tightening. Something. It doesn't matter. You reacted. I reacted. We're both still here. Oh, God. He lifts his head. It looked like the wind was sewn shut with his own hair. And look, I'm fine. You didn't even hit anything important. He says it like he's trying to comfort you, but it only makes your pulse spike. Are you upset with me? He stills momentarily. For an instant, he doesn't blink, doesn't breathe, just stares. Upset? He repeats the word like it's foreign. No, sweetheart, I'm not upset. He suddenly gets serious, lowering his voice. If I was upset, you'd know. A chill crawls up your spine. I don't like that. He exhales shakily, rubbing his face with one hand like he was just as exhausted as you were. I'm not upset. I'm just tired. And I don't want to scare you anymore. He reaches out, brushing his thumb over your taped fingers. Let's just not do that again. His smile is gentle, his eyes are not. Let's have breakfast, okay? A good fresh start. He turns back to the counter, humming under his breath the same melody from the past 2 days. A cereal. Something simple. Something easy on your stomach. He pours the cereal into a bowl, adds milk and stirs it with a spoon all casual-like. Then he brings the bowl to the table. He sets it down in front of you with a bright, expectant smile. Cole, I can't eat this, my hands. He cuts you off with a soft laugh. I know. That's why I made something I can feed you. You tense up. He's even taken the freedom to feed yourself from you. You had completely shattered his trust. Now everything was under his control again. Open up, sweetheart. Why cereal? You never make cereal. His eyes narrowed a bit. Question time is over, honey. He nudges the spoon towards your mouth again. Eat. You hesitate, then open your mouth. He beams. Good. Good job. He feeds you slowly, spoonful by spoonful, watching your face with an intensity that makes your skin prickle. His eyes follow every swallow, tracing the curve of your throat as he continues to smile approvingly. See, this is nice. Just us. No running around, no secrets. Cole, shh. Eat first, talk after. He scoops another spoonful, bringing it to your lips. Turn your head away. This time we get this one. You turn your head sharply, the spoon bumps your cheek. He freezes and the air thickens. Yinny, look at me. You don't. He exhales through his nose. This was a risk. I'm trying so hard to make this easy for you. He sets the bowl down with a soft clink. But you make everything so difficult when you wake up like this. He grabs your jaw, your chin pressed to the eminence between his thumb and pointer finger as they both keep your head in place. His touch is no longer as gentle as he had been for the past few days. This is firm, impatient. You think I'm doing this for me? This is for you, honey. You think I gain anything other than a reassured state of mind that the love of my life is well fed and nourished? You try to open your mouth to speak, but his hand is still gripping your jaw, eyes twitching. The answer is no, my love. I get nothing. All I've ever received from you is nothing. He lets go eventually, after a tense moment of staring into your eyes, standing up to massage his temples as he clears the table. You don't want to eat. You don't have to eat. Go on then. Not like you can do much harm with your hands like that anyway. It was a firm dismissal. He was losing his patience with you. You get up and go to the living room. The house had a weight to it. A heavy velvet quality that seemed to swallow the sound of your own breathing. You wander towards the center of the room, noticing how the lack of interior walls created a strange panoptic feeling. You're always in view of the kitchen, and the kitchen was always in view of you. The coffee table sat centrally, holding a stack of polaroids. You pause by the fireplace mantel where 2 picture frames sat. What are you most curious about? Touch the polaroids again. You glance back at Cole, who was organizing and reorganizing his glassware with empty eyes. As if completely lost in the repetitive domestic action of it, you drifted further into the hallway past the living room and the stairs back up, your fingertips trailing along the bland wallpaper. And that was when you saw it. A narrow door tucked behind a shadowed corner. Unlike the other doors, it wasn't boarded up or even locked up. It was simply closed with a handle that felt ice cold against your palm, even through tape. Right, the tape. You used your other hand's thumb to try and wedge it under the small gap that formed around the edges of the tape due to sweat. You wiggle it free enough for you to pull the tape off with your teeth. You pressed your ear to the wood as you used your free hand to quietly undo your other hand. There was no sound, but there was a draft. A thin, sharp current of air that smelled of damp concrete and something rottenly metallic, like old rusting pennies. It was the only place in the house that didn't smell of Cole's pervasive warmth. The door pulled open easily and without noise. You flicked on the light switch next to the door, revealing a steep set of wooden stairs that plunged downwards into a yawning void of darkness, your heart drumming a frantic rhythm against your ribs. You step into the first stair, the wood creaking under your weight with a sound that felt like a warning. You froze, glancing back over your shoulder where you could see Cole's form still stacking plates neatly on top of each other. As you descended carefully, the light from the overhead shrank, leaving you enveloped in a gloom that felt almost liquid. The basement didn't just feel colder. It felt like the house above was merely a skin stretched over something much more sinister. Ooh, I love that line. As you reach the bottom step, the light switch you flipped upstairs proved to be the only light source. Oh, cool, great. It's a rhythmic hum, casting long jittering shadows that seemed to dance independently of your movements. The air was thick and stagnant, the smell of death and rot clinging to your skin like a wet sheet. You felt the urge to gag, pulling up the collar of your shirt to try and filter cleaner air. You took a step forward and the sound of your footfall didn't echo. It was absorbed, swallowed by the oppressive silence of the concrete floor. As you ventured deeper, the domestic facade of the home disappeared entirely. This wasn't a basement. It was something bad. Something really, really bad. A cellar designed for things that were meant to be forgotten. Permanently. Oh, great. I wonder what that door is, because there seems to be a light coming from beyond it. To your left, a haunted-looking door. You paused, your breath hitching in your throat. Across from the door was a cabinet. The surface was stained and warped with something dark and suspicious. There were 2 boxes on top, both stained at the bottom with something dark and thick. That looks like blood. The entire room was rancid of an acrid chemical-like metal smell. It was also a little sweet. Formaldehyde? What are you most curious about? Well, we'll look at the door first. Oh god. The door groaned on its hinges, yielding to a room that felt less like a living space and more like a sterile afterthought. Inside, not with the oppressive rot that surrounded the cellar, but with the sharp stinging bite of industrial bleach and ammonia. It was a ruddy storage room. Everything here was stripped of the curated warmth Cole maintained upstairs. There were no hidden memories or thoughtful trinkets. Only metal shelving and the oppressive scent of chemical cleaners that burned the back of your throat. There wasn't much to see. Alright, well, cabinet time. You reach out, your fingertips brushing against the cabinet's warped surface. The residue is tacky. A dark mahogany-colored crust has seeped into the grain of the wood. Oh, lovely. At first you mistake it for old varnish or perhaps a spilled bottle of syrup from years ago. But as you lean closer, the scent hits you like a physical blow. The sweetness isn't sugary. It's the cloying heavy aroma of organic decay. A thick perfume of something that has been left to liquefy in the dark. It's the smell of a slaughterhouse hidden beneath a floral curtain. Trembling, you pull the cabinet door open. The hinges squeal as if the secret's kept behind, with crying out. Nestled amid a layer of grey dust and dead moths sits a small cardboard box. It's a shoebox. Inside the shoebox is papers and a box of matches. Drag the items around and click them to inspect. A box of matches with a few missing. Last will and testament. It says last will and testament of Yana Zhong at the very top, the child who receives her inheritance named Sarkolin Kwang. Look at this one. It's a government document. At the top it says something inheritance. The names signed are Yana Zhong and Do Azun Kwang. Kwang, that was Cole's last name. I think that's it. The silence of the basement suddenly feels predatory. You realize that while you've been digging through the wreckage of a forgotten life, the house above you has gone silent. You step towards the boxes on the top of the cabinet. It was the only thing left you hadn't looked into yet. Oh god. You reach for the smaller of the 2 boxes, your head shaking. The cardboard is soft, saturated with something that didn't just spill but soaked in over time. As you lift it, the bottom of the box feels stiff and tacky, clinging briefly to the shelf before pulling away with a sticky, visceral sound. It's heavy. Too heavy for the size of the box. You hesitate, your stomach churning. But curiosity or some type of morbid compulsion wins. You give the box a tentative shake. From inside comes a low, wet, sloshing thud. I don't like this. It sounds like a piece of raw steak hitting a butcher's block. Or a large hunk of meat shifting in a pool of its own fluids. I don't like that. The smell that wafts from the gap in the tape is unbearable now. A concentrated stench of rot that makes your eyes water. It's a body part, isn't it? You think of Cole upstairs, his gentle smile and the way he meticulously stacks the plates. You think of the way he looked at you with a love that felt almost like a weight. Then you look back at the box and the contrast is deafening. The man who loves you so deeply is the same man who kept this. Whatever this is in the basement. You stare at the other, slightly bigger box, wondering if some things are better left in the dark. But your fingers are already setting down on top of the smaller of the 2, reaching for the flap on top of the second box. Are you ready? No, it's too late now. The cardboard gives way with a dry crinkle as you uncover the opening. You don't find a keepsake or a forgotten heirloom. Oh god. Oh no. The features are a ruin of child cartilage and exposed muscle. Scalp long since gone, leaving a jagged blackened skull with odd tufts of black hair. How long has this been here? Because the set was still kinda like wet and squishy. It's a decapitated trophy of a life extinguished, preserved in a state of perpetual rotting agony. The stench that erupts from the box is no longer a scent. It's a physical force. A thick cloying miasma of ancient death and chemical preservatives that coats the back of your throat. Your stomach revolts with a violent sudden intensity. You barely have time to turn away before you're doubled over, throwing up until your ribs ache. The contents of your stomach splashing onto the cold concrete floor. The sound of your own sobbing breaths fill the room, but they feel too shallow, too thin. Your vision begins to swim, the edges of the basement blurring into a dizzying whirl of grey and mahogany. The air feels like it has turned to lead, crushing the oxygen out of your lungs as the reality of the object sinks in. This isn't just a macabre curiosity, it's a testament to something monstrous. Panic. Cold and electric surges through your veins. You stumble backwards, your heels catching on the uneven floor. The silence of the house above, which had felt peaceful only an hour ago, now feels like a predatory silence. A held breath. You think of Cole's gentle touch, the softness of how he speaks and the clumsiness of how he cares. The contrast is a sickening whiplash. The man who loves you with all his being, who meticulously stacks plates and wears a pink apron daily, has been keeping a headless corpse in the dark. Who knows what else? Hysteria is too small a word for the feeling that takes hold of you. You want to scream, but the sound dies in your throat, replaced by a frantic animal need to get away from the box, the smell, and the memory of the thing. You begin to scramble back towards the stairs, your breath coming in jagged erratic gasps until, oh God, familiar arms found their way around your waist. One pulling you tight to his chest, the other clamped heavily over your eyes. What a mess you made in front of my mother, honey. Oh, Jesus. First impressions are everything, you know? The shock of his touch was like an electric jolt, and your instincts screamed for distance. With a sound of panic, you twisted violently in his grip, shoving your elbows into his chest and kicking out with everything you had. You managed to break one arm free, your hand clawing at the air, desperate to find any exit from this nightmare of concrete and rot. Cole didn't flinch. Instead, his expression shifted from a tender smile to something clinical, almost bored. Suddenly, the strange floating locks of his hair surged forward like snakes. Oh God. Oh Jesus. Before you could scream, they latched around your wrists and ankles, pinning you flat against the cold, damp floor. The grip was absolute, an inescapable bind that crushed the breath from your lungs, his hand gently covering your eyes once more. As you struggled, a painful squirming sensation lanced through your head. A sharp searing pressure began to build behind your eyes. A localized explosion of white noise that drowned out the sound of your own frantic heartbeat. It felt as though a needle were being driven slowly into the center of your brain, and triggering a blinding migraine that blurred the world into a smear of grey and shadow. Your muscles went slack, the fight draining out of you as the overwhelming pain transitioned into a heavy, numbing lethargy. Cole leaned down, his face hovering just inches from yours, his voice now a low metallic hum that vibrated through your skull. You're always too curious for your own good, my love, he whispered, his eyes devoid of the warmth that they had held upstairs. But seeing you here, it reminds you of them. The way they used to look at me with the same misplaced curiosity, the same judgment. They never loved me, and they deserved every damn second of what happened. They were in the way of the life I wanted to build. Our life. Together, when you wake up, we can pretend this little excursion never happened. And I can pretend you truly love me. Oh, jeez. And everything I am. Oh my God. Wednesday. Time unknown. That was insane. The taste of something incredibly bitter was the first thing you felt clinging to the roof of your mouth. You tried to blink, but your eyelids felt as though they had been glued shut. Remnants of a bad dream lingered behind your eyes. Oh my God. Oh, that scared the crap out of me. When the world finally flickered into view, it was the canopy of your bedroom and a man. He was familiar. Who was he again? Oh no, we don't remember stuff. You tried to sit up and the room performed a slow, sickening tilt. The wall sliding sideways as a wave of nausea surged from your gut to your throat. It wasn't a natural sickness, it was a chemical heaviness, a sluggish synthetic fog that turned your blood into lead and your thoughts into blurred watercolors. Easy, my love, just a little more sleep. The man's voice murmured, sounding as if it were coming from the bottom of a deep well, his silhouette backlit by the soft glow of a bedside lamp. He looked serene, wearing an expression of heartbreaking tenderness. He leaned over you, pressing a damp cool cloth to your forehead with a tentative touch. You tried to remember how you had gotten back to bed, but the memory was jagged and hung, smoothed over by layers of artificial numbness. You had such a scary episode. Cole whispered, his eyes searching yours for a flicker of the disorientation they had carefully cultivated. Cole, that's right. His name was Cole. You should have told me you weren't feeling well. Must have been exhausted. He moved with a practiced rhythmic grace, shifting to the other side of the bed to adjust the pillows beneath your head. On the nightstand sat a small tray, a bowl of red liquid and a thing of something clear. What was it called again? Cole had been very busy ensuring the gaps in your memory remained wide and unbridgeable. Are you hungry, Yinny? Cole, what have you done? The red liquid in the bowl shimmered, catching the light of the bedside lamp. You stared at it, your mind trying to latch onto a single coherent thought, but your brain snuffed out every spark of recognition before it could ignite. Oh, this is bad. Your tongue felt heavy, coated in the same bitter residue. I don't know. You managed to whisper, the words sounding like they belonged to someone else, distant and hollow. Cole's expression softened to an almost painful level of devotion. He didn't seem bothered by your disorientation. If anything, he seemed to relish in it, his eyes drinking in your confusion with a quiet satisfaction. He reached for the bowl, the ceramic clicking softly against the wooden nightstand, and shifted closer. Just a few sips, honey. It'll help settle your stomach. He murmured, his voice a melodic hum that seemed to vibrate in the marrow of your bones. He dipped a small silver spoon into the crimson liquid and brought it to your lips. The movement was so gentle that you instinctively opened your mouth to accept the spoon. Ah, tomato. That's what it was. Cole beamed. Very good. He cooed softly. He continued to feed you dinner that way. He stayed with you until you fell back asleep. The silence of the house usually felt like a blanket, but tonight it felt like a veil. You wake up to a rhythmic gritty scraping that echoed up through the floorboards. Oh, okay, so yeah, I think this is Zeke's ending again. I think there's only one ending to day 3. It's the same ending with Zeke. Well, yeah, I guess that's day 3. God, that was terrifying. Like the last bit with the basement route. Anyway, that was day 3 of You Make This House a Home. I hope you guys enjoyed that. The basement route was so scary, and I think like the most startling thing about this particular day is Cole's switch from how he was in days 1 and 2 to how he is in day 3. And I know like he's angry and upset about the basement thing. I know he's tired, but it sheds a lot of light onto how he is as a person, how he's handling this whole situation. In the first day, you get this impression that he so desperately loves you to the point of obsession and he doesn't want to let you go, which is why he's kept you in this house, which isn't the right thing to do. But you get the sense that it's like a warped sense of just like pure love. And that's all there is. Like there's love. He's a forgiving person. He doesn't even blink an eye when you like, attack him. However, in day 3, after you head to the basement and he finds out, there's a very big switch in his personality. Even when you're like nice to him, he still doesn't go back to that pure like soft, sweet, loving personality that you see in day 1 and 2. I almost wonder if like he's just tired of all this, like his mask is just slipping. And there is also the thing that Zeke mentioned in that Cole isn't able to sustain himself for long on like a broken mind, and he's currently like straight up just rotting, which might also be responsible for like this situation here right now. However, beyond the hatred that he has for his parents and how they get along, we still don't yet have an explanation as to why he went so far to kill them, which is terrifying because we know that they don't get along. We know that he dislikes them and potentially vice versa. To kill them is a very different version of Cole that we have known. And especially with Zeke also admitting that Phoebe is dead, which we don't know the cause yet. However, given that he mentioned that she was the first to find out about Cole's hunger and she's dead, we can, assume that Cole was the one who did it. And the other thing that I want to point out is that Cole has mentioned several times that people usually leave him and that he's seen so many people leave him. And he definitely has attachment issues with his parents. And he also has attachment issues with you, which is why he's kept you here. But the one thing I want to point out is that currently we haven't seen a single trace of his dad so far. And despite him ripping his parents' photos up, he's kept his mother's in the basement downstairs, which to me almost signifies a sort of attachment that he still has to his mother that he doesn't want to let go. However, it also points to something a little bit scary, is that the state of what you find in the basement, coupled with you in the game as you are now, losing your memories and just being foggy, they are not your true selves, obviously, because his mother is gone. The you in this game at the moment is not the true you because you are disoriented, you are forgetting everything. And if you think about that, it's very scary that Cole seems so willing to go so far to preserve the people that he doesn't want to leave him in any state possible, even if it is like, what we found in the basement. And I think that is very, very scary. And I'm very excited to see what the next couple of days are going to ramp up into, especially now that Zeke has openly betrayed Cole by putting him to sleep. And Cole is going to wake up on day 4 and be very angry about it, I'm pretty sure. And Zeke is going to have to operate very carefully to try and see how to solve the situation. And he cares about Cole, he cares about you. So it's like, how is he going to pull this off without aggravating Cole to the point where he becomes even more far gone than he already is now, while also keeping you safe? Anyways, I absolutely love this game. I'm so happy I got an update. It's one that I think about very often, and I think Julian is just a very, very talented creator. I really love the way that Julian writes their prose as well. Some of the sentences were just gorgeously striking. The imagery that they invoked really stuck in my mind a lot, and also the art, as per usual, is very pretty. Cole is a very intriguing love interest in that he looks terrifying but also at the same time really adorable to me, so I always have a joy interacting with him in the game. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video again. If you do want to check out the game, I've linked in the description box below, especially if you want to look at the 1 or 2 options I didn't get a chance to click. Feel free to go and check that out. And also, if you want to support me, my Patreon is linked down below as well. Supporting me is not mandatory, just very, very appreciated. Thank you so much again, and until the next fictional man, take care.